Hi and welcome back to the sewing school. We've laid the fabric out, we've laid the pattern out, we've measured, we've cut, we've done the pinning, and now we're up to what I consider the good bit because we've done everything perfectly. Now, during the week that I've been busy here at home, what I have done is, and referring to the pattern, always refer to the pattern if in doubt. What I have done is I have sewn the back panels, I've sewn the side, front and back together. I've left my little slit where my arms are going to go through. I've done that on both sides. Now I've got a little tip. Now this won't take you very long at all because you've done all the work. What they don't tell you in the pattern, and what I think is really, really vital if they haven't mentioned it, is to get your iron, and all these seams here need to be ironed nice and flat. This would just mean that when you put everything together, everything is all neat and flat. Now I'll show you what I mean by that. I've flattened that one there, but when you look at this here, look at all this here. See how it's like, this bit here is as flat as I can get it, but it's really hard using this polo fleece. But if you have those bits there all neat and tidy, as you go, everything's gonna look neat and nice and as I said, very tidy. Now the other thing I wanted to share with you, and they also don't put this in the pattern, where this rounds, which is that bit down there, a little tip, what I do is I get my scissors, and all you do is make little slits. Sharp scissors would be quite good, Astar, but make little slits or little cuts into this, not right up to that stitching, just a little bit further away from that stitching. And what will happen is that sort of will allow for it to sit neat and tidy once it's all been pressed. Right, once you've done that, that's your top layer. Always like to get that out the way. Now the other little thing that I want to share with you, now you may not be able to see this, they also don't indicate to put a little row of stay stitching around there. Now the reason I do that, I may have told you but I'm not sure, I just tell you again, the reason I do that is that helps to keep the fabric all in place so that it doesn't stretch or gape. Do that at this stage. Right, so that's your top bit done. Now the next bit is your lining. Now what I have done with this, I'll get rid of this, is I've done a really silly thing. I've got a stretch, because this polar fleece is a little bit of has a stretch in it. The lining doesn't, and very soon you'll just see how tricky and what a little mess I've made, because it's you've got to be really careful when you're putting something that's stiff with something that moves, but we can address that in due course. Right, here we are. There's my two front panels for the lining, and of course we've already done the interfacing. Little point, make sure that you don't use the iron too hot because this will all crinkle up. Now, here is my back bit of my lining, which is all done. And this pretty much works for anything and everything that you're doing. Now, I like to actually press as I go. My mother is the most amazing, amazing seamstress. And when she was teaching me to sew, she used to say all the time, stitch it, pin it, stitch it, or sew it, and press as you go. Now this is what I was meaning by having all of your seams all nicely pressed, and as I said, it will make everything all neat and flat, and it will be the difference between something that looks professionally made and sits and hangs beautifully as opposed to something that doesn't. So press all of those seams. Now the next thing is I've got this section here, which I said is my back. Now I've got to put right sides together. It indicates that in the pattern, and by that what I mean is there is my right side there. There is my right side here, and just to reiterate what I've already said, make sure that you connect all those little notches. Now if I put that down there, you might see it. See, that's my little notch there. That there also needs to be pressed open so that it's nice and neat. That little notch there is going to match up with the little notch that's right there. This is how to navigate a pattern. The designers or the pattern makers have taken all of the hard work out, and all you have to do is step by step by step by step, and then you will never ever go wrong. Now The other thing that you need to realise is, see these little this little thing here, if I had pressed that, that would have made my life much easier. But if you open that up and then open that up, like that, that means that you're not going to have a big, thick, old, bulky seam inside next to you. So take that up to there, make sure that your edges all go together. That gets pinned to there, and then opening those up, see how much easier it is if you press it as you go. But never mind, we've just got to move along. That gets pinned to there, and then I also pin on the other side, and I make sure that that seam there and that seam there are perfectly lined up together. Put that into there. Now come along and make sure that the notch on this piece of the fabric and the notch on that piece of the fabric are perfectly matched up. Then what I do is I go right down to the other end and I match those up, and this is what I've been going on about, matching up and pinning as you go. And it's easier to do the pinning as you go to make sure that you do end up with a perfectly matched garment. Because sometimes what will happen is, if you haven't cut it out properly, you might end up with a bit that's there, like you can be half a centimetre out. So make sure that you get that all sorted out before you go any further, because with this pattern what we're doing is we're going to be putting a lining in, and everything, the underneath or the lining and the top, all have to be neat and tidy. And you just don't know how lucky you are that I'm going into so much detail for you, because when I was learning to sew, I think about halfway along the line, my mother and I might have had a bit of a scrap, and she just walked away and said that if I wasn't going to listen to what she was going to say, then she didn't want anything to do with it. So see how those bits there are all perfectly connecting up together, right from there all the way down. Now, as I've already indicated, the manufacturer will tell you what kind of seam allowance has been allowed. If you decide you want to alter it from, say, 1.5 centimetres to just 1 centimetre, or you want to take it to 2 centimetres, every single seam has to be exactly the same. So that gets sewn to there, pinned to there, and that gets sewn, and exactly the same with that. This is the bit that I've been wanting to share with you. Right, we're moving on to a red one now because I've already done it. Right, here we have my lining, and here I have my top. The manufacturer will normally tell you, if you're making anything that's got a circular skirt, if it's got like a flared out rounded area on the hem, what you have to do is hang it. Now, the reason why you hang it is sometimes it will drop, especially for skirts like the skirt that I've got on this beautiful frock here. If I don't, what will happen if I don't hang it is that when I come to do the hem, I might have a longer bit here, a shorter bit on this side. It might be hang down at the front, it might hang down at the bottom. So if you hang them both together for a week, then any fabric that's going to drop will have dropped away. Right, that's us finished. That gives you time to catch up. That gives you time to let your skirt or your cape or whatever you're making that's got a lovely circle around it to drop. And next time I see you, we're going to put this together, or actually it's basically going to be putting a lining with a top fabric. And I hope that I have been of assistance. I've enjoyed going slowly through this with you, and I will see you very soon.